Well, just what's going on at Celtic. It's ironic that the man who was once told to rein it in after Celtic's UEFA Cup final run in 2003 now finds himself having to rein in the growing frustration of the supporters more than 20 years later, now that he's in his second spell as the Celtic Football Club manager. I genuinely hope Martin O'Neill's legacy and his reputation are not tarnished by defending the board's policy and strategy, which is at odds with many supporters of the club. Well, Celtic now finds itself at the centre of an increasingly bitter divide between significant sections of that support and the club's majority shareholder and board. One side's calling for greater transparency, better communication, a change in the recruitment strategy, and a level of ambition in Europe which, they argue, has been lacking for more than 20 years, based on, of course, the club's record. The other side has distanced itself from some of its critics, accusing sections of the fan base of being anti-establishment and damaging the club's reputation. Well, within the last month, Chief Executive Michael Nicholson sought to explain the club's approach to transfers, communications, and according to published notes from a meeting with supporters in Ireland, he said the club's relative silence over transfers was intentional because, in his view, the media would run with any story and paint the club in a bad light, whatever the barriers to signing a player. Well, many supporters reject that explanation. They argue their concerns are not driven by media speculation, but by what they've witnessed over many years. And to offer balance in this, I have to say Celtic's strategy over almost 2.5 decades has made the club one of the most commercially successful in the United Kingdom. The businessmen, the accountants, the lawyers and the executives who've overseen the club's affairs have built a financially robust organisation with substantial cash reserves. Now, that success has been underpinned by the unwavering financial backing of the supporters through season tickets, buying merchandise, and of course those European nights. The business models also relied heavily on the European income and player trading. That part everybody accepts as undeniable. The figures speak for themselves. Since the start of the 2000-2001 season, Celtic have won 20 league titles, 13 Scottish Cups and 11 League Cups. However, supporters argue that domestic success should not be the only measure of the club's ambition. No Celtic fan, and I think lots of Celtic fans realistically expects the club to win the Champions League in the modern era. What many do expect is that Celtic should consistently compete better than they have in Europe. And since reaching the UEFA Cup final in 2003, Celtic have reached one UEFA Cup quarter-final, 3 Champions League last 16 ties, and last season they progressed to the knockout phase of the competition's new format. Now, along the way, supporters have watched what they consider lesser clubs eliminate Celtic from Europe. You can look at many of them who've claimed Celtic's scalp: Armedia Bratislava, Maribor, Malmo, AEK Athens, Cluj, Ferencváros, Michelin, Bodo Glimt and Kairat Almaty are just a few of the clubs that have defeated Celtic in European competition. The club's away record in Europe has also been a recurring source of frustration. Supporters have become equally frustrated by familiar explanations that it's difficult to recruit players, that January is a poor transfer window, that wages or transfer fees were too high, or that a new signing is one for the future rather than one for the present. The repeated pattern of late transfer business towards the end of the summer window has also become a major source of criticism, particularly when established players have departed without immediate replacements arriving. Well, many supporters believe Ange Postecoglou is possibly the only one that was able to break that pattern by bringing in the players he wanted early enough to prepare properly, but it's back to the old situation. During Brendan Rodgers' second spell, Celtic had built another strong domestic side. It was widely reported that Rodgers wanted further quality additions to take the team to another level in Europe. 1, 2, possibly 3 that he asked for. In the Allianz Arena, despite being without Kyogo following his sale with no replacement added, Celtic produced a performance against Bayern Munich that suggested there was still considerable progress to be made with the right investment. It was certainly one of the best performances I've seen in a long while. Since then, Brendan Rodgers has departed. Martin O'Neill came in short term. Then there was the disastrous appointment of Wilfried Nancy before Martin's return to win the domestic double in dramatic fashion. Celtic could still sign 9 or 10 players before the opening league match against Dundee, which comes up on August 3rd. The questions many supporters are asking are simple. Are they of the required quality? Will they arrive early enough to settle domestically and for the European challenge that's coming? Are they players the manager actually wants? And why does the club appear to leave so much business until the closing stages of the transfer window on a regular basis over those 2 decades? Well, many supporters believe the cycle has become repetitive. Now, let me tell you, Celtic have no divine right to win the Scottish Premiership. However, over the past quarter of a century, they have generally done so while benefiting from considerable financial advantages within Scottish football, including a prolonged period in which, let's not forget, Rangers were rebuilding following their financial collapse and liquidation. Many supporters believe Celtic have often spent enough just to remain comfortably ahead domestically rather than maximising the club's potential both at home and especially in Europe. And nobody disputes that Celtic's recruitment department has unearthed outstanding talent over the years. But for every Victor Wanyama, Virgil van Dijk or a Matt O'Reilly, supporters can also point to numerous signings who, in their opinion, were not fit to wear the Celtic jersey. Now, if Brendan Rodgers believed the squad required further quality additions before his departure, many supporters now believe those needs have only increased following further departures, and there could be more on the way before this window closes. These are concerns regularly raised by Celtic supporters groups. They're not invented by the media. They are based on years of watching the club and judging its decisions. Well, as for the supporters themselves, you have to ask the question, are they damaging Celtic's reputation? Are they anti-establishment? Are they destructive, cynical, aggressive, or even irrational? Or are many simply asking legitimate questions about strategy, communication, recruitment, and the long-term direction of one of the biggest football clubs in Britain? Well, one thing should be beyond dispute. Nobody connected to the board, nor their families or indeed their friends, should ever be subjected to abuse or personal attacks. That doesn't serve any purpose whatsoever. This situation requires calm heads, respectful debate, and constructive discussion. I don't know what's going to happen next, and it's certainly not my place to tell the Celtic board how to run the football club. Like many others, I'm going to watch with great interest as events unfold, as Martin O'Neill, like managers before him, calls for significant reinforcements. I, for one, for Martin's sake, I simply hope he's not caught in the crossfire of a dispute that has become increasingly unhealthy for everyone connected with Celtic Football Club. There needs to be dialogue, there needs to be discussion, and maybe, as the Celtic supporters have mentioned, there needs to be a fresh approach. There needs to be a change at boardroom level, maybe even a change of owner. Whether that's going to happen or not, I have my doubts, but certainly the next few weeks and months are going to be very, very interesting indeed, not only for the reaction from the supporters, but the board's next move.